So today we're looking at attachment. This is a theory developed originally by John Bowlby in the late 40s and early 50s. I'm going to try and describe to you the principles of attachment, but I would also like to look at some of the main criticisms of John Bowlby's theory which have been put forward over the last 50 years or so, because there are some significant criticisms. Despite that, it still remains a very important theory, and one used by paediatricians, health visitors and social workers and other child experts. So it's still very important. We'll look at the criticisms at the end when I've been through different types of attachment. Now, most children in the UK, and in fact in Western countries, will have an attachment of sorts. It may be a secure attachment, which I'll describe in a moment. It may be an insecure attachment, but most children will have some type of attachment. The situations where you find children who don't have attachments would apply in, say, very large institutional orphanages, which you used to get, or may still get, in some countries in the world. I think at one stage in Romania, possibly still in other countries like China. In those circumstances where you have very large institutional organisations looking after babies, hundreds and hundreds of them, it is unlikely those children will be able to form attachments to significant adults, because they'll just have a lot of people looking after them, and that can cause serious developmental delays which may affect their development for many years or even throughout their lives. Children in the West, as I said, will usually have some form of attachment, and most children do develop secure attachments. There are various types of insecure attachment, which I'm going to describe in a little bit more detail in a moment. If you look at my slide, the third slide there, which we'll bring up now, one of the principles of strong attachment is the development of a relationship between a key adult or adults and the child. So that may be the mother, but it could be other people who develop that strong bond or strong relationship with the child, beginning really at birth. So it's a bond that we're talking about here between an adult or several adults and a child. It's a bond of trust, which begins by the adult meeting the child's needs and the child beginning to respond to the security of having their needs met. This little mnemonic here stands for, I'll read them out to you. So the P stands for predictability. If you'd like to write that down. So one of the important things in the development of strong attachment is that the adult or adults in the child's life are predictable in their behaviour. By which I mean they're not overly emotional and praising one minute and then the next minute angry and rejecting, but there is some kind of predictability to the behaviour of the adult. Predictability also applies to routine. So babies and children like and need routine. They like to know that certain things happen at certain times of the day. For older children, that may be bedtime stories, breakfast, special time with mum and dad. For babies, it's a routine of being cuddled and fed and nappy changed, those kinds of things. So predictability applies to both of those aspects. The second letter, R, stands for reliability. So similar to predictability in many ways, but it refers to the development in the child of a sense that parent will respond to them. They may not respond straight away. So for example, if your child is crying because they have a wet nappy or they are hungry, it may not be possible to immediately go to them. We can appreciate that, can't we? We're not going to immediately be able to respond to children all the time. There will be other things going on in parents' lives that mean they have to wait a little while. But children can get used to that So they realise, okay, maybe somebody isn't coming immediately, but they will come. I know they will come. For some children, of course, they don't know the parent will come, and that's the beginning of attachment problems. So reliability is you can rely on somebody to respond to your need. Maybe not immediately, but they will respond to your need. A stands for availability, by which I mean that somebody is available, not the same person necessarily, but a significant adult is available to respond to needs. I stands for interest, showing an interest in the child, which may be simply talking or singing or making eye contact, or as children grow older, obviously taking an interest in their pictures as they bring them back from nursery, or their hobbies, or taking them out to play. Showing an interest. S stands for sensitivity. So being sensitive to a child's moods, being sensitive to the way in which they express their needs. So all parents and carers gradually get used to the ways in which children express their needs in subtly different ways. Their moods, perhaps, for older children, or it might be for younger children, the different ways in which they cry or call or wave their arms around. You need to be sensitive to those, and for those of you, or those of us who've been lucky to have secure relationships, our parents or people who were looking after us were sensitive to the way in which we expressed our needs, and hopefully the other things as well. Finally, the E just stands for being encouraging. So encouraging or praising, we know, is very important for children. We know that they build up esteem, self-esteem and confidence through having encouragement. It doesn't have to be completely uncritical encouragement. Obviously, as children grow older, they can cope with criticism as well as praise. But encouragement is important, particularly for children who do have low self-esteem, who may have suffered a series of rejections. And I'm thinking here perhaps of children who have had to come into care, maybe being looked after by foster carers, who will inevitably have experienced loss and maybe even rejection. So for those children, they may lack confidence in themselves. They may even blame themselves for the fact that they are now in care. I gave you a couple of examples the other week where children may take responsibility themselves for this loss which has occurred to them. So for them, the carer is very much trying to encourage, to find things that they're good at, that they like doing, so they can praise them. And that can be difficult. So for some children, they don't really seem to do anything very well or anything very much at all. So the carer's job is a very skilled one, in beginning with little things to praise, and then gradually finding things which the child is good at, so that they can build in more encouragement and praise, so that their self-esteem will grow. Now you'll see this, hopefully, in terms of the attachment cycle. So the attachment cycle is a way of representing attachment in a graphic form.